Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And well, we have a topic for today. I hate this one. I'm going to say in air quotes because it so hits me in the gut. Ugh, but
Sure. Yep.
So we're going to talk about the mask of safety, comfortability, and the best teacher for this one that I know of, and I think you too, Tia, because you chose her for the quote, is Brene Brown. And the quote is, she says this all the time in her talks, in her books, and it's her quote is, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot have both. And that's Brene Brown. And we're laughing because it's so true and so hard. It's so hard. Like sometimes those truths really hurt, like I want to be courageous. I think I have courage. And maybe in some, and not maybe, it's true. In some areas of my life, I know I do have courage.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other areas of my life that I'm choosing comfort, safety, and I hide behind that mask.
Yeah.
So we are Masks Off. Our brand is Masks Off, being 100% vulnerable and honest. So I'm going to take mine off. And one area where I know for so many years of my life that this has showed up is not using my voice, like not speaking up if I'm at a function. All right, I'll even say like right now, right? I just moved to Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting all these new people in my community. And I'm using my internal scanner. My scanner.
Your consciousness radar.
My consciousness radar. And I'm like, okay, can I be real here? Can I be real here? Can I say what I do here? And I've waited for the question. I've actually cringed or was hiding behind the question of, Kim, what do you do?
So what has been your response when you're
I haven't,
or like, I'm so curious.
I know. And I haven't gotten the question yet, which is interesting that they had not asked me.
That's fascinating.
Right. But here's where I would hide, or where I want to hide behind and be more comfortable and say, oh, I've raised my kids for the last 22 years and, I haven't worked outside the home, blah, 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 which would be in alignment with what they do, or probably where they're at is my guess. But where I would be courageous is because my radar's scanning and I'm not sensing consciousness so far. So where I would be hiding and like, thank God they haven't asked me, because to say that I do hypnosis, because hypnosis is like woo-woo stuff to many people, not all, but many.
It's much more accepted than it once was too.
Exactly. It is way more accepted now. And that's why I say, like, I'm scanning this particular group, and maybe that's unfair that I'm making judgment, but I have a pretty good radar of being able to tell who's conscious and who's not.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then the other is, to say that I do this Masks Off. Oh, well, tell me, what's Masks Off about? Oh, I'll go listen to it. So what if they go listen to it and then they really hear me coming on and being me, right? And telling the stories. Now they're going to like really know about me. So it's wearing that mask of, it's way more comfortable and safe to not have to say. So that is where it definitely shows up. And just over the years, like at family functions, I would never, when I was growing up, I would never say that often what I truly felt, believed, or thought about. Because again, I knew I wasn't in alignment with my family of origin. We had different ways of thinking and believing. And for me to speak the truth would possibly end in some kind of conflict. So I wanted to avoid the conflict. So I played it safe and comfortable, I chose comfort over the courage.
Mm-hmm.
And while maybe sometimes that is safe or a good idea,
Right.
like
Right.
a healthy conscious choice,
Exactly.
more often than not, though, I betrayed my true self. And that
Yeah.
wasn't healthy and good for me because I was really betraying my true self by trying to play it safe.
Yeah. It was your people pleasing showing up.
Yep. Conflict avoider showing up.
And the, hey, are they still going to love me? That
Yep.
deep underneath part.
Yeah. Oh, it's
They see
all
me for
fear
who
of
I am. Are they
rejection.
going to reject me? Right. Exactly. So, I mean, you brought up so many great things, right? So it's like how it showed up before, how it's showing up currently right now in the present moment.
Yep.
And the worry of not fitting in. And then that,
Yep.
so there's Brene Brown again, fitting in versus belonging. Do you want to belong or do you want to fit in? And,
yeah.
Obviously none of this is with judgment because I am right there along with you. And then you also brought up the really important part too. Sometimes courage is not saying anything.
Yep.
Because we don't always have to say something. We don't always, we may scan the environment and go, you know what, this is not a safe place for me to be like going deep into these deep conversations because they're not able to receive. And what's the point? Why put the energy there when I can reserve that energy for where it's going to be helpful? So it's not necessarily not being your true self. It's also not engaging in the stuff that you don't necessarily want to too. So, and that gets all the tricky, mucky lines. So my question for you in the moment is, and I'm just flipping the script a little bit.
Yeah.
What if there are other people you're interacting with who do have this and they are feeling the same as you? Like, oh, I can't share this part of me with this group because XYZ, everything you just talked about, or whatever their story is. So almost like boundaries, right? We say we create a boundary. So it's taking care of ourselves and also giving the other person that opportunity to rise up. So what if you had an opportunity? Hey, Kim, so tell me a little about yourself. What do you do? And you can talk about hypnosis, or you can talk about Mass Off and the classes we teach and all that in a gentler, not like, hey, let me take you off the deep end, but like,
yeah.
Because when people say, what do you do? And I, depending on the audience, I can be real surface explaining, but still being in line with what I do. Or if it's someone who's like, goes talking inner child, and all, I'm like, oh yeah, so I can go deeper. But I think there could potentially be an opportunity to stretch just a little.
Oh, 100%. And you're saying if someone asked, I would totally, like, I'm just watching my inner child, because that's what it is, right? It's my inner child that's rising up, that's afraid and wants to play it safe, because kids want to be safe. They want to know, like, predictability and so on and so forth. So I've said to myself, I've had this conversation that when I'm out to lunch or I'm with the new people and my new neighbors, if they were to ask me, that I would definitely tell them. I'm not going to hide from it. I will tell them, that I do a podcast and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But now that you're saying this, you're actually even challenging me and pushing me a little more, that I'm not going to wait for the question.
Yes.
I'm just going to I'm going to open the door.
Love it.
For a conversation. And then, from there, then I can sense, do they want to know what I do? And if they ask, then great, I'll tell, I'll initiate. And if it's totally met with resistance or whatever, that's fine. That's right. If they don't want to go there, that's fine. But at least I've had the courage to initiate the conversation and to say what I do. And then if it just kind of comes like after a minute or two, the conversation just falls flat, fine, that's fine. I'm not going to push it on them. That's not what the quote means either. It just means
definitely
that I'm going to have the courage to just speak up and say.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, because there it's like, here I am. And if you meet me, great.
Yep.
If not, then we can still have a relationship. It's just as different. It's
It'll be just
within this
different.
parameter versus, hey,
Yeah.
we're not going to sit down and have this really deep, meaningful conversation, or we're just going to go play tennis or whatever,
Yes.
whatever the
Yep.
relationship ends up being. And then when you're coming from that point of view too, for someone who's not, it might be new or they don't understand, it's creating an open door versus
Right.
like when people come in, I've experienced this where people just come in blazing and it's like,
Yes.
you're not even open to a conversation because you're coming in with your viewpoint, everything, and you're just going, gun blazing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it just makes me go, it's not even worth my time because you're not even going to listen. Where
Yeah.
you're coming in with, hey, here's what I do. I love it. It fills me up. I just wanted to hand this to you and you decide what you do with it. And I'm open to hearing your side and your perspective because everyone's on a different point in their journey, whether they're even aware they're on a journey or they're further along the journey than either one of us. We don't know.
You don't know. And that's the
Not at all.
thing about what Brene Brown is saying, or anyone that says to choose courage, because you don't know what's out there, right? You don't know the potential of what could be out there. And so choosing comfort and hiding behind that mask of comfort could prevent any one of us from some beautiful experiences or opportunities for growth, even if it's a challenging thing.
Yeah. And I just can imagine too, it's that old, it's not the same visual I'm getting right now, but the Burning Man visual of the cage of the two people back to back, and then the inner childs are trying to touch inside.
Yes. Yeah.
That artist who did that for Burning Man. It makes me think of two people wearing the comfort mask. And one person has to have the courage to show up.
Yeah.
And then the other person may be like, oh, I feel safe. Now I can show up as my truer self, maybe not my truest self, but like my truer self. Because if someone doesn't have the courage to create that crack in the door, then you're just going along again in the matrix and living in living in comfort and ease and safety. But it's that illusion of safety because really we're not as safe as we think we are because we're not being true. And neither is the other person.
Yeah. And that's been the hardest thing, I think, for me in my life is when I'm not true, when I have not been true to myself, like really the pain and the suffering that has caused me over the decades.
Yeah.
That's the real downside of wearing this mask.
Mm-hmm.
And why we're talking about it and why the growth and the healing is so important. And being able to try to take this mask off is so crucial to being able to have freedom, right?
Correct.
More joy, more abundance, because wearing the mask in the unhealthy way. And again, we did say there is a time and a place for wearing this mask.
Right.
It's wise, but when we're wearing it in the unhealthy way, there's just so much pain and suffering, so much to lose.
Exactly.
And by taking it off, so much to gain.
And I think it's important to remember too, like it's caused you, it's caused me, it's caused many people, all the suffering, wearing this comfort mask, this safety mask, hiding behind for fear of rejection, all of that. But we didn't even know, at least I didn't know, most people don't know, we were wearing that mask at 18, 19, 20, whatever. But we now can look back with hindsight and realize, oh, wow, that did cause me suffering. It did cause me not to have real understanding and belonging, as she puts it.
Yes.
I was just fitting in, but I didn't even know who I was because I wasn't even willing to explore. Or once I started to understand, I was afraid people wouldn't understand and then, getting more rejection. So when we take it off, when we take that mask off and we may just plant a few seeds in a little more, less woo-woo language, less super high conscious level language, but more accessible terms, ways to discuss it. That person may now have, I kind of talked about, and you talked about this before too in this podcast, but just reiterating it from another gives them that I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So if that could not just open the door for the person who is consciously hiding and not being their true self, what about the person who doesn't even know what they're living in, and you provide that opportunity or say, hey, I do this podcast, and they're like, oh, let me know. And all of a sudden they're listening and they're like, wait, I didn't get that one, but I got that one. And what you said here, now I'm really starting to question and look within and wonder and be curious. I mean,
right. So it's not only helpful for me if I'm the one taking off the mask, but it could have such a ripple effect on others as well.
Exactly. And the ones who don't want it don't have to take it.
And they don't have to. If they don't want to, or they're not ready to, that's totally fine.
Right.
I was also thinking in terms of taking off the mask and having more courage, just one other thought to think about. It's not just with person to person or within people. It could be within situations. It could be like, oh, I've always wanted to travel to Italy, but I'm too afraid to go. Right. I'm too afraid.
Do you want to go to Italy?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's
curious. I'm like, are you actually talking about yourself right now? Or are you
no, but
making a scenario up?
I have been afraid though. I have felt that experience. I have been afraid to travel like that. And I felt that way because more like from the standpoint that I have autoimmune and I don't want to be in another place, and what if I do all the what ifing, but I still play it safe and just stay right here in my little country of the United States and just travel but my daughter, wanted to go to Spain. And so I really took off that mask. Like we went 5 years ago and, I remember how scared I felt and just wanted to be in the safety comfort zone, but took the mask off and stepped into courage, planned the whole entire thing. Like even just trying to arrange 2 cities within Spain. We went to Madrid and Barcelona and the whole thing. And remember feeling so empowered. I think I may have shared this with you or something. I felt so empowered that I planned this whole entire trip for just the 2 of us, because normally, my husband has always planned all our trips. And so, not that I can't, but I did it and it went off flawlessly. And I just felt so empowered. So there's another example of having the courage, stepping into it, and then the potential for such a reward, right? There's no, what is that? No prize without the price.
Yes.
So I wanted to just bring that in, that it's not just within relationship. It can be, oh, I've always wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but I've been too afraid. So I just play it safe. It could be a
that's
job.
a great example.
Maybe even a job. You've always wanted to go and have this kind of career or this kind of job. So maybe we can just, because we are wrapping it up, just throw out a challenge to our listeners. Maybe we throw a challenge out and then they can respond from email or however they can just
Facebook group
to see one, where do you hide behind the mask of safety or comfortability, being comfortable? And can you find one little area in your life where you can step out into courage? Let's challenge our audience.
Yeah. And so just like Kim was saying, it could be a situation, a job, a trip, whatever, or trying a new food. I mean, it can be any little tiny thing.
Yes.
Like if someone has never had sushi and they want to try sushi, but they're afraid.
Yes.
Go try some sushi.
Yep.
I mean, little things like that. Or you're with your friend and they don't know something about you and you want to share or whatever. Like you were talking about with the new people you're meeting. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be massive. But the way we move forward is by taking those steps. And I love that challenge. Love it.
Okay.
Whew.
I love that too.
Cool.
All right. So there it is, people. We're challenging you. So we thank you so much for listening today. And, we hope you enjoyed what you heard. We always try to show up being vulnerable and just sharing our strength, our experiences, and our struggle.
Yep.
So we hope that this was helpful. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.